Nigerian society is polarized. A significant majority of young people are confronted with a power-hungry political establishment. Gerontocracy is not only influenced by culture, but it is also protected by law. For the existing ruling elite, sharing power is not an option. Nigeria is Africa's most populous country, with a young population of over 200 million people. Over 60% of the population is under the age of 24. The average age is 18 years, making young people the majority. Since gaining independence in 1960, Nigeria has endured several military dictatorships and has only had a democratic constitution since 1999. Nigeria's autonomous history has produced a slew of young rulers. General Yakubu Gowon was 31 years old when he became president of the republic following military rulers such as Murtala Muhammed and Olusegun Obasanjo, who assumed office when they were under the age of 40. Today, in a democratically elected Nigeria, we look for young people to assist the country's political future in vain. Nigeria has been dominated by a political caste that is characterized by elite continuity for nearly 2 decades. Muhammadu Buhari, the country's current president and a 78-year-old former commander, demonstrates this. From 1983 until 1985, he was the head of the junta, which was in charge of the government. Many of the members in his 44-member cabinet, which had an average age of 61 on March 2021, had previously held high political office in prior legislative eras or under the military ruler Sani Abacha in the 1990s. Nigerian youth are also underrepresented in the legislature. When members of the House of Representatives were sworn in 2019, the average age was 56. And the Senate, where numerous ex-governors and ex-ministers have traditionally sat, but for which no data is available, is widely derided as the retirement home of aging elites. People aged 18 and over are eligible to vote in Nigeria. Young people aren't apolitical either. There are many people who are interested in politics and wish to participate in the decision-making process. However, the majority of them have already failed to owe to legal issues. This is because the Constitution, which was approved in 1999, establishes age limits for candidates seeking election to the highest political offices. To run for a gubernatorial office, you must be at least 30 years old, and for a senatorial office, you must be 35 years old. The minimum age for standing for the House of Representatives, or one of the 36 regional parliaments, was 30 until 2 years ago, when it was brought down to 25 years. The minimum age for running for the presidency or vice presidency, and therefore for running the government, was 40, but is now 35. Youth organizations were only able to persuade the national legislature and the president to reform the Constitution in 2018 after intense pressure from civil society and a 2-year campaign dubbed "Not Too Young to Run." This constitutional change took effect before the 2019 presidential and parliamentary elections. Anyone above the age of 25 can now run for a seat in the House of Representatives or a regional legislature. The age requirement for running for president has been lowered from 40 to 35. For Senate and gubernatorial elections, however, the minimum age is now 35 years. According to academics, decreasing the age restriction for political office can increase young people's political engagement. According to Mona Crook and Mary Nugent, lower age limitations have immediate and long-term mobilizing effects, changing the calculations of potential candidates in terms of the age at which they first decide to run for office. A relevant analysis of the most recent Nigerian presidential and legislative elections back with this claim. For example, 14% of presidential candidates were between the ages of 35 and 40. In the elections for the House of Representatives and regional legislatures, the proportion of young individuals running for office increased significantly. However, young candidates were overwhelmingly unsuccessful in the 2019 presidential and legislative elections. In the House of Representatives, for example, no candidate under the age of 30 was able to gain a seat. Furthermore, just 13 out of 360 MPs were between the ages of 30 and 35 when they were elected. Their share is merely 3.7%, with 360 seats available. At least 22 candidates between the ages of 25 and 30 were elected to parliament at the regional level. However, this only accounts for 2.2% of the 991 seats available across the country. Another 68 regional MPs, or 6.7% of all MPs, were between the ages of 31 and 35 when they were elected. The legislative barriers that prevent young people from running for political office in Nigeria are first and foremost a manifestation of the seniority principle, which is still strongly established in Nigerian society, regardless of ethnicity or religion. Only elder people are regarded to have the requisite amount of knowledge and experience to make crucial political decisions, according to this theory. On the other side, young people are thought to be too immature and inexperienced to engage responsibly in political decision-making processes. In Nigeria, the use of the seniority principle goes far beyond these cliches. Young people are raised to adopt the ancient tradition of gerontocracy, beginning in the household, then at school, and finally at university. They learn that the only way to claim power and supremacy is to be older, and that they must consequently submit to their elders. The bourgeois elite was responsible for establishing high age limits for political office in order to protect its claim to power from younger rivals. In professional life, the concept of social hierarchy persists. Elderly people are promoted first among equals, and when this concept is broken, it is thought that older people should retire or be transferred. The latter is due to the perception that elderly individuals are unwilling to be subordinated to those younger than them. It is therefore important for them to retire or be relocated in order to avoid clashes and controversy. The appointment of General Farouk Yahaya as Chief of Army Staff in Nigeria garnered particular notice in this regard. Yahaya, 55, was unexpectedly appointed by the president on May 2021 to succeed General Ibrahim Atahiru, who had died only a few months earlier. The Nigerian press speculated the day after his appointment on the number of generals of the same or higher rank who would have to resign due to their age. After all, they pointed out, this is a military tradition. At least 29 generals were expected to retire, according to the information from the Nigerian press. The constitutional barring of young people from the highest political offices in Nigeria must be viewed in the context of a second factor. The bourgeois elite, who had been denied political office for a long time and who have shown little inclination to share power following the country's democratization in 1999, played a role in the democratic transition process in 1998 and 1999. Military dictators Muhammadu Buhari and Ibrahim Babangida originally stymied the country's progress. The failed presidential election in 1993 is a painful episode in the elite's memories. Following 10 years of military dictatorship, this election was expected to usher in a new democratic age. The bourgeoisie rallied around social democratic presidential candidate Moshe Abiola, who won the election, but the military overturned it. General Sani Abacha was able to seize power and establish a police state in the same year. Only after Abacha's untimely death in 1998 did the bourgeois elite, who had failed to gain power in the 1993 elections, see a new chance to gain power through democratic elections. It was also responsible for enshrining the high age limits for political office in constitutional law. This principally intended to secure the elite's claim to power against the up-and-coming, younger competition, not only in the first presidential and legislative elections in 1999, but over the next 2 decades. It follows, then, that neither of Nigeria's 2 major parties has made any meaningful efforts to develop self-organized and opinionated youth associations close to the party that may serve as a forum for young politicians. The first ruling party, the People's Democratic Party, remained in power from 1999 to 2015 and has been by far the largest opposition in the National Assembly since 2015. It drew its functional elite from the bourgeois camp, which had been denied the right to take power through democratic means in 1993. Sharing power with younger generations or extending intra-party competition for jobs and offices to younger people was not in this elite's interests. The current ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, was formed in 2013 from a coalition of opposition groups that had been unable to defeat the PDP until the 2015 elections. Its functioning elite is descended from the same bourgeois faction that was defeated in the 1993 elections. It also profited from a big number of defections from politicians who had struggled for years in the PDP. Often, the election winner is the one who can raise the most money. In Nigerian politics, transfers from one party to another are common. Defections are most common in the months leading up to presidential and parliamentary elections. Such developments should be viewed in light of the fact that ideologically Nigerian parties are nearly indistinguishable from one another. Parties are referred to be platforms for gaining political office. Party manifestos, on the other hand, are of minor relevance and are not the driving force behind people joining or leaving one party for another. It's usually about any personal benefit that comes with being a member of a political party. This, once again, has a lot to do with one's grasp of Nigeria's state and politics. Many Nigerians believe that winning a political mandate is the fastest road to riches. This alludes to the possibility to enrich oneself with public monies, rather than the comparatively generous wages that are claimed to come with ministerial and gubernatorial jobs or seats in Nigerian parliament. Nigeria has been plagued by widespread corruption for decades, which is made all the more profitable by the fact that the country is one of the world's top oil exporters, with oil profits accounting for a large portion of the government's budget. We have a video where we discuss the reasons why Nigeria is so corrupt on this channel. Follow the link above to watch that video. As a result of this chronic corruption, Nigeria has long been listed in the bottom third of the world's most corrupt countries, according to Transparency International. It was placed 149th out of 180 countries in 2020, alongside Iran and Cameroon. The monetary incentives that come with political office lead to two outcomes. First, patronage, nepotism, cronyism, and dependency connections play a significant part in the nomination of candidates for political office. Party heavyweights with a lot of money and the ability to protect a candidate often make nomination decisions in the shadows. This is advantageous since nominations are frequently purchased by bribing party delegates. Second, with a relative majority electoral system, election campaigns are fiercely waged, and elections are frequently determined by electoral fraud, such as vote buying. The winner-takes-it-all principle is the deciding factor here. The election winner is frequently the one who can raise the most money. As a result, in a country with a large young population that is among the poorest in the world, money ultimately dictates individual political engagement. According to estimates, 51% of Nigerians will be living in extreme poverty by the year 2020. Many people are living on the edge due to high unemployment and the shift into the informal economy. In Nigeria, young people are eventually pushed to engage in situational, issue-based political activities. These are usually anti-government protests that take place mostly on social media. Indeed, it has been unusual for young people to gather on city streets for demonstrations in the recent 2 decades. The End SARS protests on October 2020 were one of the few exceptions. For 3 weeks, tens of thousands of young people protested peacefully against police violence, mostly in the country's Christian south, the city of Lagos, and the capital Abuja. Since the violent conclusion of the End SARS protests, it has been abundantly clear that Nigerian society is fundamentally split. Young people, and hence the majority of the population, are confronted with an aging functional elite that represents a calcified, corrupt political system. This political elite no longer represents the modern, globally thinking, and internet-savvy youth of Lagos. However, given the widespread lack of work and possibilities, unhappiness among young people in the remainder of the country is likely to be strong. According to recent research issued by the Africa Polling Institute, only 26% of the populace trusts Buhari's leadership. According to the same report, 73% of those polled now want to leave the nation if given the opportunity. Even before the COVID-19 outbreak, Nigerian migrants saw the EU as a desirable destination. For many years, Nigerian asylum seekers outnumbered those from any other African country in the EU. In 2018, for example, there were 22,120 Nigerians seeking asylum in EU countries. Nigeria is frequently placed among the top 5 nations of origin in Germany. The pandemic-related border controls on both continents have curtailed migration to Europe. However, with the resumption of border openings, Nigerian migrants are likely to seek access to the EU again shortly, and in even greater numbers. Many Nigerians are now pessimistic about the presidential and parliamentary elections in 2023. Will they be able to put together an administration that inspires hope? There's a minimal likelihood of that happening. The conflicts between both major parties established functional elites from which the candidates will emerge. Smaller parties, on the other hand, are unlikely to win the elections since they lack the necessary means to do so in Nigeria. As a result, the key question of young people's medium to long-term prospects in Nigeria remains unanswered. This does not appear to be a good situation. Job-creating economic growth is unlikely to occur anytime soon. Governments have neglected to diversify the economy for far too long, relying on the job-poor but long profitable oil business. Meanwhile, the international oil market is weakening, and the Nigerian government's revenue has plummeted. To make matters worse, due to a high birth rate, the country's population is fast expanding. Nigeria will have over 400 million people by 2050, according to the United Nations. By that time, the country is predicted to have surpassed the United States as the world's third largest population, behind China and India. To keep up with this trend, the country's GDP would have to expand by double digits. The anti-SARS demonstrations may have anticipated what the country must prepare for. A state of emergency was declared across the country following the incident in Lagos. Large groups of young males engaged in looting and destruction, posing a threat to others' lives. The police force was overburdened, and the army was called in to help. As poverty and population numbers increases, the potential for violence and damage will grow, not decrease. Social disturbance might therefore erupt in waves at predetermined times and at ever shorter intervals. The End SARS protests, which took place almost entirely in the country's Christian South, did, however, demonstrate one thing. It's improbable that a major, nationwide young movement will form to challenge the current power structure. Nigerian youths are too racially, religiously, and socially divided to do so. Many of Nigeria's approximately 250 ethnic groups do not live in peace with one another. On both sides, there is a significant level of distrust between Christians and Muslims, who make up about half of the population and divide the country into North and South. And among Nigeria's young people, the youthful, internet-savvy, well-educated sector of the populace that organized the peaceful End SARS protests is a small minority. The vast majority of them are uneducated and underprivileged. Like we always say, Africa is looking up to Nigeria to lead change on this continent. If Nigeria, with all its influence and power, wakes up, then Africa will also wake up. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you haven't subscribed yet. We're at 49,000 and we plan on reaching 50,000 subscribers today. We're counting on you to make it happen. Start by sharing this video with all your loved ones. Thanks for watching, and see you in another video.